Hello, everybody. Welcome to NUFC Talk TV. Don't forget to subscribe, to hit that like button. Very important for you to do that for us to help getting more Newcastle United fans. So please smash that like button. Let's get to 100 as soon as possible so we can keep moving forward. We got a brand new news report for all things Newcastle United. So let's not waste any time. Let's get right to it, ladies and gentlemen. And so, first of all, how much really would a left back or a right back combination cost Newcastle right now? Because I think, and I was reading at the Chronicle, and I think they're right in this instance that maybe Newcastle have done a masterstroke when it comes to PSR. And we got to talk about Lewis Hall. We got to talk about Tino Livramento because those two talented guys could have saved Newcastle United a ton. And when I say a ton, it means a ton of money, simply because of uh, what they would be worth and how they're playing right now. Look at Lewis Hall. Nobody really had him in consideration. I mean, Chelsea. He's a Chelsea reject. Eddie Howe saw something in him. Some say that Ashworth was involved in the negotiations, so we really don't know whose signing this is. At the end of the day, it is Newcastle United signing, and he's a Newcastle United player. In this season, I've been backing him up game after game. Not one single game have I ever said, and I can only speak for myself, have I ever said that he needs to be subbed off for Kelly, for whoever is available, which we don't really have many players on that side. I think this season he's one of our best players, Lewis Hall. He's been questioned by some fans, not by the American mag, ladies and gents. How much? What about Tino Livramento? How much would he cost if we had to go out there and get a left back? If we had to go out there get a right back, how much would they cost? I think Newcastle did a masterstroke as far as PSR when it comes to those two type players. Now we would hope that they would do that with a right wing, with whatever we need, with another striker. We would hope that they would do that. Haven't done that so far as of yet. However, they did great with Lewis Hall and with Tino Livramento. I know with Tino, a lot of people said that we need to wait, that we need to give him time, that he's not ready yet, that if Trippier is available, he will be starting. What do you think? If Trippier is available, would you put Trippier over Tino Livramento right now? I could, before when the season started, because of everything going on with Trippier, I would have said no. Tino starts every time. And then Trippier played against Man City, and he showed me that he's very much active. He's very much alive in his career so far, and he's very talented, a leader. So I was leaning towards Trippier, and then he gets hurt again. Tino Livramento has to come on. By the way, let's be fair. Tino hasn't had that many of great performances as of late, aside from Chelsea, aside from Arsenal at home. So let's not get carried away. I keep telling the fellas all the time, calm down, man, because this is just one game, just two games. Let's see how this moves forward. As far I think that Tino is a talented, very talented guy. So we need to give him time. On the other side, Lewis Hall, unbelievable. He's been performing week in and week out. So just how much would you pay for one terrific left back, one terrific right back? 60 million, 50 million, 40 million, let's, just to cheap it. That's still a lot of money that we don't have at the moment. So imagine paying 40, just 40 for each for a quality right back and left back. And by the way, these two fullbacks are in conversations to go to England for the national team. And you know me, I'm very, very much all for international players. So I think that we've hit the jackpot with these two. I know that we need to wait a little more on Tino Livramento, obviously, but Lewis Hall is very much getting ready. He's very much alive. He is very much waiting for a call up to the big England squad, to the first team. He's been playing for the under 21, but still, I think he's performing. I don't know what other left back in the league right now is performing as good as he is. I'm sure there will be another one, but really, how many are there that are performing at a top level like this kid is doing? He's just a young guy, so I think that we need to give him time, especially Tino. And by the way, talking about Tino, he was showing. He compared, talking about the Arsenal game, he compared the cross of Gordon to Beckham, David Beckham. And by the way, that cross was unbelievable, wasn't it? I mean, let's be fair. However, now that we're talking about Tino, He's certainly on that play right there. I mean, he did amazing. Obviously, Gordon, and a great pass by the one and only um, Longstaff. However, I don't think it's Gordon's attribute, but it is what it is. It's his teammate, and there's nothing really to refute about that. But yes, he did compare it to Beckham, and but what a cross! I mean, it was unbelievable. Let's take a look at it right there. Look at that. That was the post by Gordon, and Mr. Tino Livramento right there says backs and fire emojis, because that cross was unbelievable. I mean, let's be honest. That now, if Gordon playing on the right is going to perform like that every time, he's going to be an unbelievable right wing. And again, I'm not trying to say I said so, but I thought he needs to be on the right wing. He does. He's better suited, because we got too many left wing candidates. Too many left wing candidates. So open up that space, go to the right, perform. And somebody, the mighty Wayne, I think, said that he's going to spit his dummy out because England, and he wants to be a left wing for England and all this, all that. Nonsense, 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 nonsense. The kid can play right wing. I've been saying it all along. Put him on the right wing. Give him time as a right wing. I guarantee you, this is the only game where he has started right wing and finished right wing for the full 90 minutes, or until he had to leave. I guarantee you is the only time. Give him time, man. Give him time. With more news right here, and Alan Shearer, Mr. Alan Shearer, has talked about Tonali being dropped off of the team of the starting 11 for Newcastle United. And I know that's been subject to controversy. We had a show talking about the midfield and whether Tonali or Longstaff need to start. And I'm still on the Tonali boat. Tonali is certainly a better player, but I mean, what can I say? I mean, Longstaff, when he's on there, he's getting the results, and people are trying to hold on to that for dear life to keep him on the pitch. But I'm still not convinced about that. However, Alan Shearer did come out and had a few words to say about that right there. And Mr. Allen has said, let me see. The Toon legend admitted that on the latest episode of the Rest is Football podcast, after Mika Richards praised Newcastle's balance against Arsenal and asked Shearer if he would stick with this side, he said, "I totally agree with you. That was key to how Newcastle played. The balance is in the midfield and the balance of the front three. Joe Linton put a shift in on the left hand side. It was much better. Eddie's been searching for that right balance," he said. He struggled to find it. I thought because of what happened on Wednesday in the Carabao Cup against Chelsea, there were signs then that the energy was back in everything they were searching for. It was nearly there. I thought if they could carry that into the game against Arsenal, and they did that. Also, he continued saying, "You're absolutely right. The balance looked absolute spot on." So yeah, I would stick with that if everyone's fit, and definitely. So there you go. Mr. Alan Shearer says he would go with the same lineup, meaning Longstaff over Tonali. But then again, we get into this thing. It's like day in and day out, week in and week out. We change our opinions. People flip flop left and right. I stick to my guns. Tonali needs to start. Now, if Longstaff needs to be the Longstaff plus 10 players, then you can still play with Tonali and Longstaff in there. But Tonali needs to start. Let's stop this nonsense that Tonali is just an impact sub. Yeah, like I keep saying all the time, if you stick Haaland in the bench, he'll be the best impact sub in the history of football. If you do that with Mbappe, it would be the same thing. If you do that with Vinicius Jr., it would be the same. If you do that with any best player, they're going to be the greatest impact subs of all time. If you put Messi on the bench, he will be the greatest impact sub of all time. Best players go on the pitch, ladies and gentlemen, from start to finish, or until they can. However, I would like to see Tonali finish a game, because he can never do that, according to what Eddie Howe has been seeing. And look, at the end of the day, he is the manager. He makes the decisions. But I'm here to give my opinion as well. So there we go. So to keep talking about Alan Shearer and some of his comments, he also praised an outstanding Tino Livramento. And on the Rest is Football podcast, he continues saying that his performance as a right back against Arsenal was superb. Lineker said it's taken a while for Livramento to carve himself a place, but I thought he was really impressive against Arsenal. Mr. Alan Shearer continues saying he was superb as well. I thought both fullbacks were outstanding. Martinelli rarely had a kick, to be honest. A lot of that was down to Livramento. He had a tough opposition. Kieran Trippier has been great for Newcastle. He's out injured at the minute, so Livramento has been in and out, and not really had a chance to say this is my position. I think that time is now," said Alan Shearer. And again, we will get into the first subject of the PSR masterclass for Newcastle United, and although I do agree, obviously, that we literally got away with one with Livramento and Lewis Hall because we didn't have to go out there and pay a lot of money. We did pay, obviously, we did pay for them, but we would have probably paid a lot more money uh, if this was this Lewis Hall and this was this Tino Livramento. As much as Tino is not up to par yet already, in my opinion, to be ahead of Trippier, you would still pay a lot more money than what you paid. And I do agree with that, but I think that Tino Livramento needs more time. Now, whether that's right or wrong, or whether we say he should be already at that stage where he takes over the job over Trippier, well, that's another conversation. But he's not, and he does have some defensive deficiencies, you can say, and he shall, work on them. I think that he's getting better if he's going to continue the performances that he did against Arsenal, where he definitely became a better defender, and he did also attack with care, and that would be lovely, and then he will become ready. But at this point in time, I'm not there yet when it comes to that. So we'll wait and see what happens. But you let me know in the comment section down below. And now let's go with an interaction that happened on Talksport with Simon Jordan as he questions Newcastle United's level under Eddie Howe after the 1-0 win over Arsenal. Jim White also spoke with Alexander Isak, and they talked and, basically had a few words about the game. But let's get into the discussion. Martin Keon as well in the chat. So let's take a listen and we'll react to it.
He has with the Newcastle United fans. Where are Newcastle at this stage then, Simon? So relegation to Champions League to mid-table. I wonder what Newcastle's true level under Eddie actually is now.
Probably about 7th, 8th, something of that ilk. I mean, they're very good at home. I mean, with the exception of the Brighton game at home, they beat teams at home. They've beaten Spurs at home.
One defeat in 12.
They've beaten Chelsea at home, albeit in a cup game. And now they've beaten Arsenal. I mean, they're not quite the free-flowing side that they were a couple of years ago. They don't have quite that same balance, and maybe that's because people expect more of them, so they aren't allowed to be as they were a couple of years ago when they were a breath of fresh air. The challenge for Newcastle is expectation against reality. How do they bridge the gap? How do they get to a situation where they can close the gap on other football clubs? Villa are the outlier because you'd expect Newcastle to be able to run close to what Villa are able to do because they're comparable in sizes of football clubs in terms of Newcastle's got a bigger stadium, but I would imagine that the pricing policy of Villa is slightly different to the pricing policy of Newcastle, so the revenue they can generate through gate receipts is probably the same. And Aston Villa are having their moment in the sun like Newcastle did last year in the Champions League. In the different format, Newcastle might have excelled more, and as Aston Villa in this particular Champions League format. I mean, the difficult thing is, as we discussed last week, is in order for Newcastle to kick on, they need to spend more money, and they can't. And as I said last week, and people didn't like this observation because they don't listen, Mike Ashley had left them in a reasonable condition in terms of it wasn't loads of debt. They didn't spend money and may have outstripped and whatever they think, right? But they could have built from it, and they have built from it. That's why they spent quite big in the first 2 or 3 summers. And now they're finding that they can't spend quite as big. So the challenge is how do you bridge the gap against the established sides that have already got 300, 400, 500 million pound turnovers, and Newcastle can't do it.
Yeah.
And there's the challenge, and that's a difficulty for Eddie because he's set a blueprint for how people's expectations should be in the first season, and now
I think he's arrested a little bit of a slide. So we're coming up to 3 years. Obviously, when he arrives, it's a team in relegation trouble. He turned that around. It was transformational to then finish in the top 4. Difficult last year to maintain that. Didn't necessarily have the squad, Jim. But in the coverage for TNT at the weekend, I was working for them at the weekend, they did a little piece on Eddie looking back at what they'd achieved. And sometimes when you do that, it brings you together a little bit. And that's what they seem to have come back together. And that fixture against Arsenal, you know about last year, the fallout, all the VAR issues and everything, it's always been a significant fixture for Newcastle, Arsenal at home. 3 out of the last 4 they've won at that game. And somehow it seemed to cement them. And I saw that coming back. And you can see Eddie now has got 2 young fullbacks. He's trying to build as much as he can. They're on the way. That's lifted them a little bit, Jim. 2 really good wins, Chelsea, Arsenal, in 1 week.
Incidentally, how good was Lewis Hall?
Yeah, he did exceptionally well. We all know about his attacking talent now. He's got a belief.
Yeah.
We interviewed him afterwards. Really calm lad, measured, knows why he's making the difference, knows what he needed to work on. I like that. They gave him the messaging. Eddie's he's turning into a very decent manager there. And I like the way that he's changed Gordon to the right wing, so that he can still keep, as that effect, Joe Linton on the left, a little bit more defensive, better balance to the team.
Is Eddie still the first rung in the Saudi project, as we've mentioned before?
I don't think they're worried about the manager. I think they're more worried about how they can get that resource, that financial resource, that muscle power into the club. They'll be looking as much as anything about trying to change that. Simon, building a new... I don't know. There's people at the club saying there's a new stadium maybe needed, or they're going to extend what they've got. They've got something very special there, Jim. They don't want to walk away from St James's.
Unbelievable. I mean, as a club, Simon, I find it hard when you travel around to find a club that is as together as Newcastle is.
But it's a hotbed, isn't it?
They love their players.
There is a unity.
The players
now.
love the support.
You don't want those fans against you. For years, they didn't. They were protesting. Yeah. And now there is definitely a unity, but that really did help.
But they weren't having
on track.
I mean, I know you defend them.
No,
but they weren't having them.
I'm not defending him. I don't think he got the metrics of the football club. I think he ran it in a certain way. Some people would say it was prudent. Newcastle fans will say it was snuffling the life out of the football club. The Saudis have come in, and the expectation levels of Newcastle, it was billed through the media as the world's richest football club, which wasn't true because the ownership is rich, the football club isn't. And there was always going to be some quantum of controls put over them, however much they would like to have spent. The challenge is if Newcastle are 10th in the league, and they've got a run of fixtures coming up.
Forest next, isn't it?
They've got Forest next. They've got Forest, they've got Palace, they've got other sides in there that will give you some sort of measurement of where Newcastle are. But if Newcastle continue this season to be in fits and starts, then they won't finish high in the league. And then you have to look at that and say, well, what is that? I mean, they haven't, they've got a good side there. There's some good players in that team. They've spent money, and obviously they had the situation last year where they didn't do their due diligence on a particular character in their dressing room, which cost them for the bulk of the season in Tonali. And yes, the Newcastle fans are behind their players. A lot of clubs are behind their players. Liverpool are behind their players.
Sure,
Ostensibly, Arsenal fans are behind their players. The building up of Newcastle to being this unique football club, I don't really recognise. I think they're like most football clubs. They support their players to a certain extent. And if it's a one,
I don't think they're like most football clubs.
Well, I don't know.
I think they're special.
I don't know. Obviously I knew John and I knew Douglas when they owned the football club, and I used to listen to this Geordie roar, and I only ever saw it when they scored goals, and that will no doubt incite the Newcastle fans to have a particular view, in my opinion.
I think at the weekend, though, I think they found a way to protect their 2 central defenders. So, not to dig anyone out, but there's a lack of pace there. But if you're going to bring everybody back in front as they did with their midfield worked tremendously, very workmanlike midfield. Yeah. And they're protecting those 2 players so that they're not going to be in any way isolated, Jim. And they sat on the edge of their own box for large periods. And they managed the game really very, very well. But that's what they're going to have to continue to do, get that right balance.
It's a special.
Well, there you go. That was the main thing right there. I do agree with Martin Keown. There is a bit of lack of pace in the center backs, and mainly on Dan Burn, if he's going to be the center back moving forward. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, but I do believe that, and I think that Lloyd Kelly, at this point in time, with the options that we got, Lloyd Kelly is probably the best substitution to bring pace, to bring agility, to bring... I mean, he is still a big lad. He's not as tall as Dan Burn. However, it's like saying, I'm tall, so I'm good at basketball. That doesn't work like that. The tallest kids, you have to have skill, you have to be fast, you have to have skill and attributes to be a good footballer, especially to be good in the aerial game. Just because you're tall, it has some level of I guess positivity of help, I guess a bonus of why you might be good in the aerial game, but that doesn't mean that you all of a sudden going to be scoring all goals from from the aerial game or defending all balls perfectly. So let's just keep common sense into it. And by the way, most of football is playing on the ground. So I think that we have a lack of pace in the back, and probably Lloyd Kelly is the better option moving forward. but with a lot of what was said, I do agree with a lot of Simon Jordan. I think that we do have the best atmosphere in the world, though Simon Jordan wasn't really falling for that. Not in the world, probably. I mean, but definitely in the UK, because of what's allowed. If you go to South America, South American teams are probably going to have the better atmosphere because they are allowed other things that you're not allowed in English football. But Jim White is definitely spot on a lot of what he said as well. But I do agree with Simon as far as the PSR, as far as that we haven't been able to spend as much as we wanted to, and that's the biggest thing moving forward. You know, as long as we have that thing right there, we're not going to be able to move forward, and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is at this moment. I don't think it stopped us from getting the Champions League, so we must move forward and try to achieve that as well. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Very important to know your opinion. I want to know what everybody's thinking. This channel opens up the doors for all fans to come on and have their say. So please come on and let us know your opinion. Don't forget to hit the like button, smash the like button, and but last but not least, actually, I do have one thing. Apparently, Eddie Howe hits back at Mikel Arteta. He says it's irrelevant to me what anyone says. Not sure exactly what Mikel Arteta had to say, but let us take a look at what's happened and go from there.
Well, I think we're on top of it. We look sharp, we looked alive, and in one action, direct play, second ball, which they are really good at. They put the ball wide, they have an unbelievable cross and finish. After that, momentum changes, energy shifts. You know the game that they want to play is clear. You get too often dragged into that kind of game, and we weren't good enough, had enough answers to get constantly out of that, especially creating the threat that we needed, and we discussed about it. So at the end, yeah, you are relying on 2-3 big chances that we had, probably with Mikel, 2 with Declan, 1 with Gavi, but not enough threat to say any moment we can change the game and we can really win it. So that's the frustrating part, but credit to them as well for what they do.
Yeah, it's BS. Arsenal had at no point whatsoever did they look like they were going to score. At no point. At no point. And you can ask any fans, any fan channels out there saying the same thing, criticizing Mikel Arteta. It's easy for you to say, well, they brought shithousery and they held onto the ball. They didn't want to play. It's Newcastle's job to make it easy for Arsenal, you know. So whatever it takes, whatever it takes. At no point in the game whatsoever did they look like they were going to score. Did they even look dangerous? I think that the toughest match was against Chelsea. Chelsea looked like they had a few chances. They didn't look. They did have a few chances to score. They didn't. That's their fault as well. Arsenal had zero chances. So never did they look threatening. Let's take a look at what Eddie had to say about that.
It's irrelevant to me what anyone says, really, apart from my team, and that's how we've always looked at it, because there's always outside noise, whether that's wherever it comes from. So we just try to do what we do to try and win games on a consistent basis. We know that it's been inconsistent this season. We've had good bits, some not so good bits. I think generally the last few games our performance level has definitely increased, and we've been consistent with it. Initially the results didn't come. Last 2 games, I think we've been rewarded for that upturn, and now we've got to make sure it stays.
Those are Eddie Howe's words, irrelevant to what anyone says, and I agree with him. You know, people are going to complain all the time, especially Mikel Arteta. He's known for complaining after he loses. You just got to get it right, mate. You just got to go out there and get it right, and you didn't. We did. So it's just as simple as that. Anyways, fellas, ladies, lasses, whatever. Don't forget, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. This is NUFC Talk TV, and we shall see you on the next one. Take care, and bye-bye.